Hello SLAPAFISH community, and welcome back to another World Tanks console video. So in this video, I'm going to be doing a tank review on the Diamondback, a brand new British tank destroyer that you can earn during the next 2 weeks by completing the earn up that's going on, which is called Overlord. And in this tank comparison, I'm going to be comparing against the AT-15 and the Vindicator. And before we jump into comparison and then to the gameplay, I'm going to ask y'all to subscribe because it helps out the channel a lot, and that's all I'm going to say. So let's jump into the comparison. So the Diamondback is basically the turtle that's on PC. It's a tier 8 British tank destroyer. It's just like the AT-15, AT-7, and Tortoise, and AT-6. AT-6? No. It's just like the AT-15 and the Tortoise. It looks like them, and it's very similar to them. It has a lot of frontal armor at the front, and it's slow. The Vindicator is basically like a charioteer with a smaller gun. But why am I comparing the Vindicator to these two tanks that have really good armor and are slow, and this is entirely opposite? Well, the reason I'm doing that is because the Vindicator is the only tier 8 premium tank destroyer in the game, besides the Diamondback. So, if you want to buy a tier 8 British tank destroyer, these are the two tanks you would look at. So, as you can see, the horsepower on the Diamondback is the best out of the comparison, oh yeah, I also almost forgot about the charioteer. The reason I didn't go charioteer in here is because it really doesn't fit, and you would understand who would be the clear winner here. So, anyway, horsepower is better on the Diamondback, but it also has a terrible horsepower per ton at 11.67, which is actually better than the AT-15. Even though they have both at the top speed, and their horsepower is very similar, the Diamondback actually gets to its top speed really quickly. Well, it stays at its top speed at 20. And reverse speed is bad at 10. The fire chance is at 20, which is all three, which is like normal. Track rotation is 23 degrees a second, which is faster than the AT-15. And either way, if it's faster than the AT-15, 23 degrees a second is still slow. Train resistance is still the same as the AT-15. And now we get to the gun. The caliber of the gun is a quarter pounder. No, I forget what it was. The reload is actually the slowest on the Diamondback. And the AT-15 has the better reload time, aim time, accuracy, and moving dispersion while moving the tank. Okay. Reload time is a 6.8, aim time is 1.9, accuracy is 0.36, moving tank dispersion is 1.8. It also the Diamondback has the best dispersion while rotating the turret. In this case, rotating the gun, and it also has the best gun elevation. And the AT-15 and the Diamondback get an amazing 10 degrees of gun depression, which really helps you use your armor in this tank. Now, getting to the damage, even though it has the slowest rate of fire here, it also does the highest damage at 330 on its standard and premium, and 430 on its high explosive. Now we get to the penetration. It has the worst penetration on its standard and premium rounds. Even though premium rounds on the AT-15 and the Vindicator are not the greatest at 258 millimeters a pen. And so yeah, I have a lot of premium rounds on this tank. It's one of the few tanks I actually have more premium rounds than standard rounds, but it's really close together. But on the good side of the Diamondback, you have 54 millimeters of penetration. That's pretty cool, right? Yeah? Okay. Now, the shell velocity is the worst on all three types of rounds. Now, the shell velocity is pretty slow, especially compared to the AT-15 and the Vindicator. You can actually feel this. You can feel the slow shell velocity while you're fighting light tanks or medium tanks. or anybody that's like off in far distances, you can feel the slow shell velocity. Now let's get to the thing that makes this tank shine. The DPM is 2,911, which is the best out of this entire comparison, but it has the slowest rounds per minute. Even though it has the greatest DPM, the higher alpha gives it the better DPM. Its ammo count is 50, which is in the middle of the AT-15 and the Vindicator. Its potential damage is at the highest at 16,500, which is better than the AT-15 and doubled of the Vindicator. Now, it doesn't have armor on the turret because it don't have a turret. Now, the whole armor is 152 at the front, 152 at the sides, and 76 at the back. So, even if you get to the back of this tank, you cannot high explosive it to make the high explosive pin. So, also this tank doesn't really have like a polar. It has a very small, it has like a polar, but it's super small, and it's nothing I really need to mention. You can actually see what I'm talking about when we get to the gameplay. Now, the view range is blind at 370, and its signal range is pretty bad at 570, but it gets 1,400 hit points, which is pretty cool. Its stationary and moving is 23% while stationary and 14% while moving, which is better than the AT-15 if that matters, but worse than the Vindicator. So, now we get to the boosts of this tank. The silver boost is 50%, and the XP boost is 15%, which is actually better than the Vindicators. Alright, that's it for the tank comparisons between the AT-15 and the Vindicator. Now let's go jump into some gameplay of this tank. Alright, we ended up on Lakeville. So we're also mid-tier, and you see that little machine gun on top of the tank? That's the cupola. I'll actually turn around and look at it. Look how little it is. You don't even see it. It's barely there. And that cupola is 76 millimeters thick. It's also very slanted, so it's a easy weak point to like penetrate, but you gotta hit it. It's so little, and not a lot of people actually aim there. So, yeah, this is the Diamondback. Even though we're on soft terrain, we're going like 16 kilometers, which is really close to its top speed. Oh, wait, that's 18? Yeah, it's 18. 17, 18. So, as you can see, I have 22 AP, well, now 21 because it just fired, and actually hit that light tank. 22 standard, 23 premium, and 5 high explosive. So, I thought about going to the Lakeville and the Death Valley in 1 and 2 line because I'm able to use my 10 degrees of gun depression and use the armor as the most effective. And also, everybody's like sitting in front of me, so I don't have to go anywhere and use my incredible DPM. So, now, this tank may have almost 3,000 DPM. That DPM is very hard to use because of the slow speed of the tank. And now that heavy tank actually pins me, which I don't know where it was. I think it's the flat plate of my armor, which is actually thicker than the rest of the frontal armor. The frontal armor is 175 millimeters, but there's a top plate at the top, and I don't remember what the actual millimeter thickness is. I think it is about 200. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. And now, the 152 millimeter thickness of this armor is at a pretty good slant, but you need about 275, 280 millimeters of armor to go, penetration to actually get through this tank. But if you're using 10 degrees of gun depression, that puts it up to like 350, 360, somewhere around there. But those guys are actually using their premium rounds and actually pinning. So I've actually hauled off like 2 tier 9s and a T95 that had the big gun. The armor works. It's a lot more reliable than the AT-15. If they can't go through your frontal plates, then they can't go through anything. Oh yeah, I also want to mention you also have a lower glacis plate on this tank. It's pretty weak, but if you hide it while you use your gun depression, there's no way they're going to pin this tank. If they have more than 350 millimeters of penetration, they'll pin through the tank when you're using your 10 degrees of gun depression. But not a lot of tanks have that, especially when you're fighting 8s and 9s. Not a lot of 10s have 350 millimeters of penetration. So, yeah. Back to the DPM. The DPM, you may have almost 3,000 DPM, but it's very hard to use that. When people are sitting in front of you, you can feast on them, like I've been doing in this game, this battle. You can just feast on them, and it's great. But as soon as all the tanks are dead in front of you, and they're on the other side of the map, or somewhere else, your top speed of this tank will not let you go there and actually kill them all. So, you may have 3,000 DPM. It's better used when they're all coming at you, or they're all in one spot. So basically what I'm trying to say is that the average amount of damage I've been doing in this tank is about 2,500, because I'll get to a position and do a lot of damage, everybody will die, we'll win the flank, and everybody will die. And everybody else is everywhere else. And now I'm stuck at 2,500 DP damage, but I still have plenty of hit points, a lot of shells left, but my top speed holds me back from getting any more damage. What I'm trying to say is, this tank is slow. It will only do damage in front, what's in front of you. So, play it like a tortoise, or AT-15, or AT-7, or AT-2. Play those tanks like that, or a T-28, or a T-95. It's just like those tanks. Alright, now let's go jump into the in-game results and see what kind of silver and damage I did on this tank. Alright, that was a victory, and we made 118,000 silver. We also aced the tank because nobody's playing the tank, and we did 4,364 damage. And we blocked 1490, which is pretty good. And it was a tier 9 match, and we were in the front lanes, so our armor held up pretty nicely. Anyway, if you like this video, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, remember to SLAPAFISH, because we're always not, and bees out, see ya.